What if the most important moment of your life didn't come with a warning? What if it came wrapped in a towel, crying, left for dead, in a trash can? And what if the only one who noticed wasn't even human? On an ordinary morning, a loyal German shepherd ran off during his walk. His owners thought he was chasing a squirrel, but instead, he stopped, at an alley, behind a rusted dumpster, and he wouldn't move. What they found when they followed him changed everything. A baby. Alive. Abandoned. And this was just the beginning. Because what started as an unexplainable act of canine instinct would uncover a buried family secret, a desperate teenage girl, and a twist that no one could have seen coming. Mark and Jenna didn't live an extraordinary life. They weren't celebrities, not rich, not famous. Just two people living in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. Mark worked construction. Jenna taught piano lessons from their living room. They had a modest home, a vegetable garden they never quite kept up with, and a German shepherd named Max, who, honestly, was more like their child than their pet. Max went everywhere with them. Walks in the park, drives to the store, even lazy Sundays curled up on the couch. They didn't have kids, not yet. They had tried, and waited, and hoped. Life didn't always give them what they wanted, but what they had was peace. A kind of calm routine that made sense, until Max broke it. One morning, just like any other, the dog started pacing by the front door before sunrise. Whining, scratching. It wasn't his usual playful bark. It was different, urgent, almost anxious. Jenna rubbed her eyes and looked at the clock. 5:42 a.m. "What's gotten into him?" she muttered. Mark shrugged, already pulling on a hoodie. "Let's take him. Might be a raccoon or something." They didn't know it yet. But Max was about to lead them to something that would make raccoons look like a joke. Max had never acted like this before. He wasn't just tugging at the leash. He was pulling, fast and focused, like he had somewhere to be. Not a single bark. No stops to sniff around. Just full speed ahead. Jenna held the leash tighter, struggling to keep up. "Where are you going, boy?" she asked, a little breathless. They cut through their usual walking route, crossed a small park, and headed toward a narrow path behind the grocery store. Max didn't even hesitate. And then he stopped, right by a rusted, dented trash can behind an abandoned alleyway. He stood still, ears perked, body stiff. Then he started circling the can, whining, nudging it. Mark caught up first, panting. "What is it?" Max barked, just once. But it was sharp, loud, almost like he was calling for them. Jenna stepped closer, squinting in the early morning light. "Do you hear that?" she said quietly. Mark paused, and then he heard it too. A soft, muffled sound. Not a cat, not a bird. Something else. Something crying. Jenna's heart started pounding. She reached for the lid of the trash can, her fingers trembling slightly. "Wait," Mark said, stepping forward. "Let me." He peeled the lid open slowly, the metal creaking as it moved. The smell hit first. Rotten food, damp cardboard, old plastic, but beneath it, a different sound. Clearer now. A tiny, strained cry. Jenna leaned in, covering her mouth. At first, it didn't register. Her brain didn't want to believe what she was seeing. But then, her eyes focused. A bundle. Wrapped in what looked like a sweatshirt. It moved. "Oh my God," she whispered. Inside was a newborn, no more than a few days old. The baby's face was red, lips quivering, a weak cry escaping its tiny mouth. The sweatshirt was damp. The baby was cold. "Mark, it's a baby," Jenna gasped. She reached in without thinking, lifting the bundle gently. The infant was light. Frighteningly light. "We need to call someone. Right now," Mark said, already pulling out his phone. Max sat silently beside them, watching. Not barking, not moving. Just watching. Like he knew exactly what he had found. Jenna cradled the baby against her chest, instinctively shielding it from the early morning chill. The infant's cries were faint, but steady, a sign of life. The skin was pale, lips slightly blue at the edges. No diaper, no bottle, no note. Just the sweatshirt and the cold. Mark gave their location to the 911 operator, his voice tight and urgent. "There's a baby in a trash can, alive, looks like a newborn. We need help, now." Time seemed to freeze. Jenna rocked back and forth slightly, whispering softly to the infant. "You're okay. You're okay. Stay with me." Max never left her side. Every few seconds he nudged her leg with his nose gently, as if to say, "Don't let go." Within minutes, the sound of sirens cut through the silence of the alley. Red and blue lights spilled across the dumpster and the cracked pavement. EMTs rushed in. Jenna hesitated before handing the baby over, her arms instinctively pulling back. "It's all right," one of the medics said gently. "You did the right thing." Mark stood beside her, silent, processing. This wasn't just an abandoned baby. This was deliberate. Someone had left this child here, alone, in the dark, in the trash. And if it weren't for Max, that baby might not have survived the morning. The baby was rushed into the ambulance, tiny, wrapped in clean blankets now, an oxygen mask gently placed over its face. Jenna and Mark stood frozen as the doors closed. For a moment they didn't speak, just watched. Then a police officer stepped up beside them, notebook already in hand. "You found the child?" Mark nodded. "Our dog did." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Your dog?" Jenna stepped in, still shaken. "He wouldn't stop pulling us. Led us right to the trash can." The officer scribbled something, then glanced at Max, who was sitting calmly now, tail flicking once. "Smart animal," he said. "Might have saved a life today." More officers arrived. They taped off the alley, took photos, measured the distance from the sidewalk to the dumpster. Everything suddenly felt like a crime scene. Because it was. This wasn't just a case of neglect. This was abandonment. Someone had made a conscious choice to leave a newborn in a dumpster, and they had done it somewhere hidden. No cameras, no traffic, no nearby homes. Almost like they didn't want the baby to ever be found. One officer mentioned that the trash pickup in that alley wasn't scheduled for another 2 days. Another said, "If it weren't for that dog," and didn't finish the sentence. Mark and Jenna gave their statements, everything they remembered. Where Max stopped, what time it was, how the baby looked. But the question that no one could answer yet was why? Why here? Why now? And who? Was the mother? The baby was stable. Doctors confirmed it was a girl, no more than 2 or 3 days old, cold, underweight, but alive. The news hit local headlines fast. Newborn found in dumpster, saved by dog. But behind the scenes, the police weren't celebrating. They had a mystery to solve. Abandoning a newborn is a crime. But who would do it, and why choose a place so hidden, so final? Detectives canvassed the area. Most nearby businesses were still closed that early in the morning, but one thing stood out. A small corner store across the street had a rusted, weather-beaten security camera. The footage was grainy, but it showed something. A figure, hooded, moving fast. Just before 4 a.m., they walked into the alley with something bundled in their arms. 90 seconds later, they walked out empty-handed. That was it. No clear face, no license plate. But then, a break. A woman who lived 2 blocks away called in a tip. She said she had seen a teenage girl walking alone early that morning, barefoot, crying, carrying what looked like a blanket. She looked lost, scared, the woman said. Didn't think much of it until I saw the news. Police traced the area she mentioned. An apartment complex. Rundown. Quiet. And one tenant matched the description. 17 years old. Name withheld by authorities. She lived with her stepmother. Father not in the picture. Neighbors described her as quiet, kept to herself, and always wore oversized clothes. When detectives knocked on her door, she didn't deny it. She just started crying. "I didn't know what to do," she said. "No one knew I was pregnant. I was scared they'd kick me out." She'd given birth in the bathroom, alone. No hospital. No help. And when the baby wouldn't stop crying, panic took over. "I thought if I left her where someone might hear, maybe..." But she hadn't left her on a doorstep, or a church, or a hospital. She left her in a trash can. Whether it was fear, shame, or desperation, it nearly cost the baby her life. And if not for a dog, it would have. The girl didn't ask for a lawyer. She didn't try to lie. In the interrogation room, she just kept saying the same thing. "I didn't want her to die. I just didn't know what else to do." Her story spilled out slowly, between tears and long silences. She'd hidden the pregnancy for months, wore baggy clothes, faked stomach cramps. No one noticed. Not her friends, not her teachers, not even the woman she lived with. The baby's father? Gone. She said he stopped answering her texts when she told him she was late. "I thought if I told anyone, they'd throw me out. I'd have nowhere to go," she whispered. So she kept quiet, went to school like normal, ate lunch like normal, and then one night, she gave birth alone. No doctor, no pain meds, no plan, just a bathtub and a hand towel. She was crying. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want anyone to hear her. So she wrapped the baby up, walked through the night, and left her in the quietest place she could find, a trash can. And then she went home, like nothing had happened. She said she stayed awake all night listening to the silence, wondering if she'd done the right thing. "I hoped someone would find her," she said, her voice barely audible. She never imagined it would be a dog. No one knew what to do with her. She was still a child in the eyes of the law, but old enough to be charged. Prosecutors considered pressing charges for abandonment, neglect, even attempted murder. But the case sparked a firestorm of debate. Online, people were divided. Some called her a monster. Others saw a scared girl who had no one and did something terrible out of panic. One headline read, "She left her baby in a trash can. But should she go to prison for it?" In the middle of the outrage and opinions was a baby who survived, and a couple who couldn't stop thinking about her. Mark and Jenna. The ones who found her, or who were led to her. Days passed, then weeks. The baby, nicknamed Hope by the nurses, remained in the hospital. She was healthy, gaining weight, breathing on her own. But she had no name, no official guardian, no one to claim her, except the couple who couldn't stop thinking about her. Mark and Jenna visited the hospital every day. They brought blankets, pacifiers, books they used to read to each other when they were trying for a baby of their own. They weren't allowed to hold her at first, but eventually, the nurses made an exception. Jenna sat for hours with Hope sleeping against her chest. Mark stood silently nearby, one hand resting gently on the baby's foot. They didn't say much. They didn't have to. One afternoon, as they were leaving, a social worker stopped them in the hallway. "You two ever think about adoption?" Jenna blinked. "We tried for years. We were told it would take forever." The social worker nodded slowly. "It usually does. But this case is different." Turns out, the baby's biological mother had quietly waived all rights. No family had come forward, no one else was in line, and when the agency asked if Mark and Jenna wanted to begin the process, they didn't even look at each other before saying yes. "We didn't find her," Mark later said. "Max did, but maybe he knew we were meant to." The paperwork took time. There were background checks, interviews, home visits. But 6 months later, it was official. The same baby pulled from a trash can by a German shepherd was now home, with the couple who were never supposed to have children, and the dog who refused to ignore her cry. They didn't name her Hope. They named her Grace. Grace is 2 years old now. She's walking, talking, laughing. Her favorite word? Max. He still follows her everywhere, lying beside her crib at night, tail wagging whenever she toddles into the room. He treats her like he found her yesterday. And in a way, he did. For Mark and Jenna, life has changed. There are diapers again, bedtime routines, toys scattered across the living room floor. But there's also something else in their home now. A peace they never thought they'd feel. Sometimes I still can't believe it, Jenna said. How close she came to being lost forever. Mark put it more simply. All we did was follow our dog. But that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes life doesn't unfold the way we plan. Sometimes it takes a detour through heartbreak, fear, and pure chance. And sometimes it's a dog, a creature that can't speak, can't explain, who sees what others don't. Max didn't just find a baby in a trash can. He found a daughter for a couple who had nearly given up. He found a second chance, and he reminded all of us of something we forget too easily, that even in the ugliest, coldest places, life still cries out, and someone might just be listening. So next time you think one small act doesn't matter, remember Max. One bark, one moment, one path taken, instead of ignored, and everything changed.